choreography for this.
You like this? Oh yeah, you like that? Oh yeah.
Oh,
Where's
there's C
everybody
for
at?
CBC. CBO. Janet, you should be doing the C. I'll try to figure out a B.
Love it.
All right, I gotta put on my serious.
CBO.
I gotta adjust my fist. Oh God, I said fist.
We'll give a couple more minutes, guys. Let a few more viewers join in.
Oh yeah?
Sure.
Okay, right on.
We don't want people to miss the beginning of it. Really.
Are you gonna do the intro there, Janet?
Yes.
And you're gonna do the reading?
Will so?
Usual. Good morning, Marie. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining Cape Breton Originals in our Sunday edition. Woo! Happy Mother's Day to all you moms out there.
Happy Mother's Day to us.
Yeah.
To both of you ladies, happy Mother's Day and happy
Happy
Mother's Day to
Rhonda.
all the ladies. Oh yeah, well yeah, I guess so. Hey, look, there's people.
Thanks, Sandra. And happy Mother's Day to you, darling.
Hey.
All right, guys. So as usual, this is our right now. We're in like our 8th or our 9th edition of Serious Sundays. We're in our 3rd edition of the Wally Trials. Now, the Wally Trials are very stretched out because there's a lot of information inside of them containing to what happened through the courts with CBRM, executive elites, we'll call them, and basically, and what took place with them. So, anything to add before we get into our article this morning, Rod, Marie?
For me, no, I'm good. I'm good to start. This is a good one, I find. It's going to mention NSEF. Going to talk about the Port Authority a little bit. It's a good one.
So, guys, it's going to really mingle into a lot of the things that we've been covering and trying to bring to your attention. So let's get right into it because today is a long article. All right. Yeah. So go ahead, Marie. Hit us with your first shot.
I will do. So by Mary Campbell, once again, this was on August 29th, 2018. The Wally Trial Part 3, 3 Not So Easy Pieces is what she titled it. So John Wally took the stand in his own civil suit against his former employer, the CBRM, on Monday, August 20th, the very first day of the trial.
Yeah.
Wally followed Jerry Ryan, the former CBRM CAO, who had hired Wally, largely because he liked his new approach to economic development, one that was less focused on granting money to local organizations for their various projects in the hope one might spark an economic revival in a community that had lost or was in the process of losing its major industrial employers. So Wally began his testimony with a description of his own qualifications, his previous occupation, and his decision to take the economic development manager's position in 1997.
Yep.
He spoke about his fears for his own job security, given the non-unionized nature of the position. He had belonged to a union when he worked for the federal government in Halifax, and his concerns about reporting to council in open public sessions during which he could be asked anything about the topic at hand. It's something, he said to CBRM Corporate Services Manager Jim McCormick, advised him to think carefully about before accepting this position. Wally said he did think carefully, but ultimately he loved the challenge represented by the CBRM job, which was exactly what he was trained to do.
Exactly.
So,
key there is that he was trained to do this.
Yes.
He was trained in economic development, unlike a lot of the bureaucrats that have been pushed into economic development or slotted into it. This was his specialty, economic development. Okay, go for it.
The whole thing. Moreover, Wally said he received assurances from CBRM CAO Jerry Ryan that he would be entitled to severance in the case of dismissal without cause. Wally told the court he believed Ryan McCormick, HR Director Rona Green, and Administrative Assistant, later HR Director Angus Fleming,
yeah,
were all present when those assurances were given. None of these individuals was called upon to testify about a fact that the CBRM's lawyer, Tony Mosvik, would highlight in his summation. Wonder why that is, eh?
That is odd because, I mean, it sounds like to me either Wally had a bad lawyer or these people had let him know beforehand they had no interest in going in and testifying on his behalf and don't bother bringing them in because he wouldn't like the outcome. That's what I think.
It could be.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So
Another
Wally
thing,
also stated his belief that he had signed a standalone employment contract with the CBRM, but acknowledged he had been unable to find a copy of it.
odd.
That
It is odd. I find this whole thing problem.
Yeah, but you know
So-
what? There are voice contracts. You know, verbal contracts do exist. They're very hard to prove. I mean, unless you got it on a recorder, right? So
That's just it.
Going back to the
It's all
earlier point,
hearsay.
yeah,
Go ahead,
and going back to the earlier point about HR directors not showing up, etc. Maybe it was that these people were still employed by the CBRM and felt that their position might actually be
That's what I
threatened
think
if
you're
they
right.
testified on Wally's behalf.
It's
definitely.
very awkward. It's awkward to go into a snake pit, it feels like, after you've spoken
Snake
up
pit.
against any higher ups, right? It's very difficult to go to backtrack and
Well,
try to
in
get
all
back
honesty, in their defense of these HR people that could have been called to the stand, if they are still working for the CBRM, there's no way in hell they would have been able to go and testify for Wally against their own employer. So
Yeah.
that would have been huge jail. Time. Their employment would have been over right
Over.
then and there, and they knew
It's-
that.
It's
Okay.
yeah, it's very difficult, like I said, to fit yourself back in there. Like, as if I haven't said anything against you. Imagine trying to eat lunch with these people every day after you've gone and right.
Not
But
happening.
I mean, in all honesty, like, they should have. In my opinion, they should have. They should have spoke up and said things. They should have said, "Hey, I will testify. I did know this. I
Yeah,
was
you know
there."
what? Jobs are hard to find. And in an elite job like that, there's no way you're just going to hand that job over for the sake of someone else to be true to your friend, because where else are they going to get their bread and butter at in Cape Breton that's going to be that much bread and that much
Yeah.
butter?
And
So-
Yes, that's the problem.
A lot of selfishness going on around here.
For me, that's the difference between me and them. Though I would never be able to do that, and that's why I'm not an elite.
Well,
why
you know
I'm why I'm here reading the articles and not the one out there being written about, I suppose.
It reminds me of that phrase, cut off your nose to spite your face. In all honesty,
true.
they were in a rock and a hard place, those people. And I
Yeah.
don't know what I would have done in their position. I may have just stayed back and did the same as them and been scared.
well, that's just it. What you're always running into here locally is fear, right? And they
It is.
and people, employers, etc., hold that over your head.
Yes,
You know, if you rock the boat, you're going to be out of the boat.
that's
And-
right.
Yes, true.
and,
I know.
They did that.
Experience.
They seen what
Good
happened
story.
to John Wally. They seen what happened to Jerry Ryan. These
Yeah.
guys already rocked the boat, and they're in a different boat now, and they didn't want to be in that other boat. So I
Yeah.
get.
I absolutely understand that, but I'm on the side where I am a boat rocker, and anybody who knows me in
Yeah.
Ontario will
Doesn't
vouch
mean
for
we
me.
like it. It's just a little explanation of why they would have done it, I would assume. So anyhow, we'll keep
I
going.
get that. I do, though, and I do understand because I have friends who've been in that predicament and still are. So,
Mm.
Economic Development Fund, or as Rod would call it, economic. We do have a difference of pronouncing certain things, I noticed, but I think that's the Montreal.
Half a dozen, 6, 12 of one, half a dozen, or 6, half a dozen, whatever. Who cares? Keep going.
Yeah.
Economic Development Fund. Despite his new ideas about economic development, Wally said he spent much of his time in his early years at the municipality administering the CBRM's $250,000 Economic Development Fund, now known as the Sustainability Fund.
Oh, okay.
Dozens of community groups, he said, applied for money and evaluating their submissions, meeting their representatives, presenting to council, and conducting follow-ups took up a disproportionate amount of his time.
I bet.
By 2000, however, he said his job was coming closer to what he had recommended the economic development manager's job should be. Responsibility for the Sustainability Fund was transferred to another department, and Wally said his role was limited to sitting on the committee administering the fund.
Okay.
Mosvik, however, challenged this view of things repeatedly, both in his cross-examination of the witnesses and in his summation, insisting that the Sustainability Fund was always one of Wally's key responsibilities and would have remained so even if he was taken off the court file. Wally didn't agree. He described his job from roughly 2000 on as consisting of 3 main pieces: demographic analysis aimed at better understanding the municipality's declining population problem, the development of the Port of Sydney, the municipal financing, read equalization.
Ah, okay.
Here we go. So equalization. Wally used the term municipal financing to describe this aspect of his work, but admitted that equalization was the dominant element in that category. and certainly equalization is the term that became associated with the CBRM's court battle to secure what it argued was its constitutionally guaranteed share of the federal government's transfer payments to the province of Nova Scotia.
Right.
So I think we all know about NSEF.
Yep.
Everyone.
There it is.
Wally told the court that he was deeply involved in the equalization issue. In fact, he said he was responsible for its entire development. He researched the question, wrote the issue papers that went to council, then watched as council decided to take legal action, suing the province of Nova Scotia based on his research.
There
It
you
all
go.
played out during the reign of Mayor John Morgan, a lawyer himself who served as mayor of the CBRM from 2000 to 2012.
Yeah.
CBRM Council voted to consult a constitutional lawyer in 2003. The CBRM filed its legal action against the province with the Nova Scotia Supreme Court in 2006. The court ruled the CBRM had no cause to sue in 2008. The Nova Scotia Court of Appeal rejected the CBRM's appeal in 2009. And in December of the same year, the Supreme Court of Canada refused to hear the municipality's appeal of that decision. So in all, the equalization battle cost the CBRM $572,000 in legal fees.
A drop in the bucket compared to the port.
When you compare it to what we're actually owed, and the Supreme Court, we can get further into how that Supreme Court judge came to that finding that he wasn't going to see it. You had to get further into this whole court battle to understand this. It's all cut and dry sounding here. It is not cut and dry.
No,
And it infuriates me the way it makes it sound like, oh, it just didn't happen. Well, the court said this and the judge said that. You don't know what the heck who the judges were put in there by.
Well,
Intrigue.
It continues.
So, the equalization lawsuit began under Progressive Conservative Premier John Ham, 1999-2006, and ended under Ham's successor, Rodney MacDonald, 2006 to 2009.
My head still hurts.
Right? A constant in both governments was Cape Breton North MLA Cecil Clark, 2001 to 2011, who held the posts of Economic Development Minister, Energy Minister, Speaker of the House, Attorney General, and Justice Minister between 2003 and 2009.
Unqualified for all of these positions.
Yes, which tells me that there is such corruption running right through that entire governmental chain or system here in this province. It absolutely sickens me because they keep helping each other, putting each other into these positions or in these, minister positions, and they just keep shuffling them around. Like, where's Cecil now? I'd love to know where this little.
I was actually going to look that up, and I lost track of what I was looking at the other day. I had a few things on my list there, but that's one of the things I do want to know about.
Amazing job did his buddies put him in now. I can't imagine what he's being paid to do next to screw us all over. Anyhow.
But yeah, goes back to my big word, meritocracy, right? There is no meritocracy going on. Okay, go ahead. Sorry, Janet, do your thing.
It's Marie. Go ahead, Marie.
Oh, sorry, Marie, do your thing.
That's all right, Rod. You get another cup of coffee in you there, bye. I've been okay, and I don't even have my proper cup. I'm sorry, guys. All right. So, in his testimony, Wally characterized the response of the provincial government to the CBRM's legal case as vicious and recounted an incident from 2000 in which the newly elected Morgan was invited to brief the Ham government at a caucus meeting. So, Wally says Morgan asked him to make a presentation on municipal financing during which both Premier and Cecil Clark left the room.
All right. So, if you're being tasked on to come in and make a presentation to the Premier, all right, and you're the mayor at the time, and you leave while this is happening,
the mayor and the Premier. The Premier.
Yeah, Cecil Clark and the Premier just split.
So that tells me they just put that on for smoke and mirrors. It wasn't going to go anywhere. They just wanted to shut you up for now. Here, this will shut you up. And we don't even care about it. We don't care about it that much. We're not even staying in the goddamn room. Bye.
He might as well have been standing there with his fingers in his ears yelling la 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 to them. It's ridiculous. It's just to be said that the meeting took place, even though the people who needed to hear it were not there at all.
Yeah.
Well, that says a lot about Cecil right there at the, like,
This is only the beginning.
yeah, who does he actually care about? The people of Cape Breton or about himself and his position? Cecil,
His position. Yeah.
yeah,
For
that easy.
Yeah, it seems like it's no longer even debatable any longer, like whether he was there for the people or not. It's so clear. It's in black and white. It's all over the place. It's proven throughout the island for the last how many years?
Decades.
And we're going to see further here.
Yeah. All right. So it's going to get worse.
Yeah. So as you will recall, it was this equalization battle that former CAO Jerry Ryan testified Clark cited as the reason why Ryan and Wally might find it difficult to work with his new administration in 2012. Right?
Right.
Yeah.
Remember that from earlier? But it strikes me as I'm reviewing the case that Morgan was reelected in October of 2008 with 82% of the vote, even though the Supreme Court had rejected the CBRM's argument in April of that year. Again, I'd say you have to look into why that was rejected and why people still sided with Morgan, because they believed in his cause and what he was fighting for. So, and Morgan didn't lose to Clark in 2012. He didn't run. Moreover, the provincial government had also changed in the meantime. Darrell Dexter's NDP had come to power in 2009. It would not lose to Stephen McNeil's Liberals until 2013.
Exactly, yeah.
So, still in his testimony, Ryan seemed to accept that the 2012 election marked a change in the municipal approach to provincial relations from court to cooperation.
Yeah, cooperation.
In his cross-examination of Wally, Mosvik suggested that as of 2009, when the Supreme Court refused to hear the CBRM's appeal, equalization ceased to be one of Wally's three chief responsibilities. Wally disagreed, however, saying he continued to discuss the issue with councillors who were still very much interested, and with community groups like Nova Scotia for Equalization Fairness and SEF, with whom he said he spoke at length. So, court development pre-Clark is our next piece here.
Okay.
The piece of Wally's job that was of most interest to me and most germane to the constructive dismissal case was port development. To recount the entire history of port development from 1997 to 2018 is well beyond the scope of this article. It was also beyond the scope of the Wally trial. We were treated to an editor's cut, so to speak, of events. I'm going to try to give a brief synopsis of that history of 2012 to provide context for Wally's exit in 2015 and to fill in a couple of pretty big blanks from the version an observer could have pieced together from trial testimony.
Yeah.
Basically, the developments we're concerned with started in 1995 when the federal government decided to divest itself of hundreds of Canadian ports. The divestures included the government wharf in Sydney and the ECBC-owned Sydport Marine Industrial Park on the opposite side of the harbour.
ECBC again.
Yeah. The CBRM purchased the government wharf in 2002. Sydport, as I've documented at some length, was sold in 1999 to a private company, Laurentian Energy Corporation, established for the express purpose of buying Sydport. Laurentian didn't do much of anything with Sydport for a number of years, but Laurentian itself changed form, adding a number of community shareholders, including New Dawn Enterprises and Member 2 First Nation.
There you go.
So in 2007, the Sydney Harbour Master Plan, Volume 1 and Volume 2, commissioned by the Sydney Marine Group, which included pretty much everyone with a business on Sydney Harbour, identified the Greenfield site, a portion of Sydport, as a potential location for a container terminal capable of handling post-Panamax container ships.
Yeah.
So the container terminal idea had legs, at least here in the CBRM, and the municipality secured provincial and federal funding, plus $1 million from the Nova Scotia Power, to undertake a $38 million harbour dredge project, the Greenfield site being the ideal location for a container terminal, except that its harbour wasn't actually deep enough to handle the ships it hoped to attract.
Yeah, so we dredged the harbour.
And it was at 38 million, we've dredged that harbour. And to what avail? Like, I want to know, like, is there really a reason, like, is it really going to be useful at some point that we've dredged it, that we did all this? I'm hoping there will be at some point in the future, because we put a lot of money into this, but for right now, that seems like such a frivolous waste when we didn't have the railway fixed. We didn't have anything else done.
It's cart before the horse, Marie. It's the way
Oh
we
my
do things
God,
around
yes.
here,
Yes.
you know?
So in early
Don't get
2011,
frustrated.
yeah.
Hang in
In
there.
early 2011, with plans for the dredge well underway, a dispute erupted between Laurentian shareholders as both New Dawn Enterprises and Enterprise Cape Breton Corporation, ECBC, under then CEO John Lynn, offered to buy Laurentian's assets, including the Greenfield site.
See the
To make-
division?
Yeah,
Do you see what's happening here? You had the ECBC crew on one side,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
you had the New Dawn Enterprises group on the other side. That's going to play pretty prominent in the differences in thinking that's going to be going on here, and the difference in philosophy between the Cecil Clark group and
McSween
and-
group.
yeah, exactly. Right
Yeah.
on. Okay.
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 I
To
see
make
that.
a long story short, the sale didn't happen.
No.
But what is significant for the Wally case is that each side in the dispute commissioned an appraisal of the Sidport assets. Both appraisals put the value of the park at roughly $6 million.
Right.
But the one by Mackey Appraisals Limited put dollar values on each lot in the industrial park, while the one by Altus Group said the only value in the park was the Greenfield site and put a $0 value on the other lots.
Who
That
the hell
means-
is the Altus group? Obviously, they're crooked.
No, they're the appraisal groups. Like one group was commissioned by, I could be wrong, by ECBC, and the other group was commissioned by New Dawn Enterprises.
It sounds like that, doesn't it? Because of the two different, it's bizarre, but that's what I was looking at too.
Yeah, both sounds biased to me. I don't know if I would trust either one, but anyway.
Well, she wants us to remember that.
Mhm.
So the harbor dredge was completed in January 2012. Materials removed from the harbor were added to the Greenfield site to increase its size. And as the Spectator reported in earlier this year, the site is now eroding and recently required repairs totaling $70,000.
Wow. What do you think Mother Nature would do? Just let it go? It's not frozen. Letting it go is not happening with land and water.
No,
I
it's
actually
funny,
walked
right? They
the
feel like,
entirety
well,
of the site.
it's
Yeah.
bizarre.
I walked the entirety of the Greenfield site, and it's in terrible condition.
Wow.
How's it-
Really.
Yeah. Okay. Go ahead.
I've not been in that area. So in May 2012, Laurentian announced it was entertaining an offer to sell the Greenfield site to an unnamed consortium wanting to turn the property into a coal handling facility.
Yeah.
To head this off and to keep the container terminal dream alive, CBRM Council decided to buy the Greenfield site for $6 million.
Oh, CBRM bought it. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
No, that's a good buy. That is a good buy. Yeah. If you did anything with it.
If they actually do stuff that they need to with it. On
Yeah.
Wally's recommendation, the municipality also engaged the port consultants Edward Zimney of Paul F. Richardson and Associates and Gordon Forsyth IV, managing partner at BSY Associates, to continue the work they had been doing for Laurentian. That is, trying to interest terminal operators and shippers in the Greenfield site.
Different from Barbucci and the other guy.
Yeah, you wait till here. And that's where matters stood as of October 2012, when Cecil Clark elected mayor of the CBRM. So next is port development.
Here we
Clark
go.
era. We ready for this?
Yeah.
As related in part 2, former CAO Jerry Ryan testified that weeks after being sworn in as mayor, Clark came to Ryan's office and suggested that it would be difficult for the CAO and Wally to work for the new administration. For the record, the mayor was new, but council, which you may recall, holds the power in a Nova Scotia municipality, is not actually all that new. It was smaller between the 2008-2012 elections. The number of the councillors was reduced from 16 to 12. But in keeping with the provincial trend in 2012, which saw 80% of its incumbents return to office, it contained a lot of familiar faces. So let's take a look here at CBRM Council in 2012. District 1 was Clarence Prince, incumbent. District 2, Charlie Keegan. District 3, May Rowe, incumbent. District 4, Claire Deathbridge, incumbent. District 5, Eldon McDonald. District 6, Ray Peruche. Is it Peruche or Peruche, guys?
Peruche.
Bruce.
Thank you. Incumbent. District 7, Ivan Doncaster. District 8, Kevin Zachary, incumbent. District 9, George McDonald, incumbent. District 10, Darren Brookschwager, incumbent. District 11, Lowell Cormier, acclaimed, and District 12, Jim McLeod, incumbent. So 8 of the 12 councillors were incumbents, and District 7 councillor Ivan Doncaster had served previously on council.
Mhm.
So it's something. The other thing that struck me about this was Clark's certainty that the needs of the new administration were so distinct from those of the previous administration, they required the replacement of 2 long-term municipal employees. And yet, when Clark says that he has a mandate from council to serve as point person on port development, he's talking about the council elected in 2012. He never asked the new council elected in 2016 to renew that mandate. Strange, no?
Yeah.
You'd almost suspect he was making the rules up to suit himself.
Oh, well. Knowing what we know about Clark, we surely know that he did make the rules to suit himself.
Here's
This is
my
right
word for
from
the
the
day.
beginning.
I got a word for the day.
Okay.
It's called
Word of the day.
agenda.
Repeat.
Agenda. You know,
Agenda.
and hidden agenda.
Oh.
So
Hidden agenda.
whose agenda was Clark following? You know, this is the question. Was it his agenda, or was it ECBC's agenda, or the people who put him into office's agenda? But he had his own agenda, and guess who didn't fit into it? John, Wally, and Ryan.
But here's
For
what
John Wally.
Rod, let's go back to before when Cecil was elected. Look at all those minister positions that he held. How much influence did those minister positions have
That's
on
healthy.
how much funding went to ECBC? Because those minister positions were federal, and was it not federal money that was supplied to ECBC? So I
No.
feel like he had a rein on this entire pocket of money the entire time.
Okay, Cecil's positions were provincial. Okay, so the federal money was from the federal government. He didn't have a lot of say in what went into ECBC. But here's the thing. After he ran for office for the federal position and lost, he got a job through that was financed by ECBC.
See? So I just feel like there's something underhanded here that connects all of them previous to him being mayor. And they've all been watching out for each other and putting each other into important positions for years.
Yeah.
Well, follow the money. Like that's what it's always follow the money. Like I'm sorry to sound like what's that Jerry Maguire?
Yeah.
Yeah.
movie?
Show me the money. Yeah.
Show me the money. And
That's what they're all yelling. All of these guys who are like, and they all just interchange positions. They'll
Yeah.
make new positions. They'll make new titles. They'll do anything they can to keep their friends in beside them. It's like, you know,
oh, yeah.
the cool group at school.
Yes.
If
It's
everybody could just put themselves back in high school for 5 minutes in time and think about that cool group in school and anything that they would do, the way that they went about it to make sure each of them was protected and put down everybody else in the school a lot of the time.
Well,
true.
you know, like, yeah, that's a pretty good analogy because in a lot of ways, because if you think about it, how many of these people have actually worked off the island? That, you know,
great.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
and if they haven't worked off the island and they've been in economic development or they've been involved in crown corporations here on the island for the majority of their career, where are the results?
They don't
Exactly.
need results. They just need seniority, apparently. Seniority is all you need here. Results and having something to quantify your credentials, it's not really needed. No.
No,
It's
that's
basically
the
keeping
point.
the status quo for the rich that already have theirs.
Yeah,
you look at it this
there's no actual progress. There's no deliverables. There's you know, this Trump
Progress would mean they would be building a bakery and not having to share any of their pie. You know, they don't want to share anything, right?
there's no
They
there's
want to just
no-
keep making and never giving anything out.
Look,
Yeah.
if you could build a wall around
Don't want
Benyon,
anyone else.
imagine the wall that would be built around Benyon to keep us lowborn away.
You think about the fact that there was supposed to be a water park built in, where was that area supposed to be,
Benyon.
guys?
It was supposed
Right?
Benyon.
And then nobody wanted it. Now look at what Halifax is doing. Has anybody
They're building
seen
a water park.
Yeah, exactly.
And we needed that, but
Right.
Benyon higher ups did not want that.
Locals.
Like,
Right. Well, you know what? I mean, if we've got any say and the people of this island got to, you know, actually have what they wanted, there's the provincial park out in Myra. I don't see why they can't have a water park there. I mean, it would bring in more revenue into our municipality, which we're desperately needing to have new money generated, and to be able to spend a few bucks to get all kinds of money back in return and to make people happy. It's already a public entity. It's already owned by the province. So why not build upon it, you know?
Yeah. But
And
to
the
be
thing-
fair, Halifax is a private enterprise, right? It's not done by the government, guys. Just I did read about it. It is
Yes.
not something we're all paying for and that they're using our NSEF money or any of that.
Well,
It's
no,
actually a private enterprise. But why not do that here? Why not get our private people in
And-
here? You can't tell me the people from away who are buying land here wouldn't want something like that for their kids to come and play on and do things like that.
Exactly.
Those
And-
thoughts are like out the window.
hold on, let
And
Rob
this
talk.
thing about the water park, sorry to get us away from our
Yeah.
article, but
Yeah,
the
yeah.
water park that was proposed for Elton Benyon, guess what it was? It was private money.
Yes,
They,
Yeah.
they weren't looking for any federal money.
No,
I know.
it would have been fine, right?
Because you remember one of the mayors that were running, Kevin McCachran? He was one of the investors that were trying to get that underway. So I know,
You
Yes.
spoke of that.
yes, he most certainly, him and a few other fella, Wayne, I can't remember
I
the
don't recall names.
North End, you know, the store down there, Jovi's place. They've got a lot of development going on, and he really tried to pump it up out there, and it really would have been great for us lowborn, us non-elite, you know.
Yeah, it could have helped. It could have helped a lot, right? But what could and couldn't be, that's all in the past. We need to look to the future by
Right.
learning about this shit so this shit doesn't happen anymore.
Exactly.
You
Look, it's
don't want
crazy. Keep going, Marie.
Right.
Okay. So Ryan didn't get into detail about how he himself came to leave the CBRM. We know he transitioned from CAO to senior administrative consultant for his last months on the job and retired in September 2013. But how those terms were negotiated was not explained. Tony Mosdick, the solicitor for the CBRM, was adamant there was no need to get into the details of Ryan's
no
departure,
need.
and Justice Murray agreed with him. But boy, would I like to know more about it. Sadly, no one asked for my preference.
I'm with Mary.
Honest
Yeah.
to God, and you
Yeah.
know, this is ridiculous. We should have been able to know about this. This is like, so Justice Murray is the person who actually. It's like sweeping everything under the carpet is
Under the
not
rug.
going to clear anything up, right?
Okay, the setup's in. Okay, go for it.
However, Ryan came to leave. He testified he made a plea to the mayor to retain Wally because of the importance of the port file, which
Mhm.
Ryan said Wally was overseeing. Ryan made a similar plea to Wally to remain with the CBRM, and in the end, while Ryan left, Wally stayed on. Both former CAO Michael Merritt and current CAO Marie Walsh testified that despite the rocky start, when the mayor had basically tried to fire him, my words, not theirs, Wally and Mayor Clark had a good working relationship. And yet, Wally testified that in February of 2013, while Marie Walsh was serving as interim CAO, she told the port consultants, Zimney and Forsyth, on a conference call that Wally did not have the mayor's confidence. Imagine. Sadly, Walsh was not asked about this when she testified herself, so there's no way of knowing her side of that story.
Yeah.
But Wally testified that he emailed Walsh and then HR Director Angus Fleming asking for guidance after Walsh's remarks on the conference call completely undermined him. Wally said a meeting with the two was scheduled, but nothing much came of it. He was instructed to continue doing his job, but Wally told the court, if people are saying they don't trust you, it's really hard to do your job.
Exactly. Undermining them and making them feel like, why am I in this job? You want to be in that situation? That was forcing him out.
Yes.
Right.
So, this conference call that Marie Walsh is having, where she's saying that the mayor, he does not have the mayor's confidence.
Yeah.
That must have made him like, how can you possibly go into work feeling like you're doing anything of any use?
Actually, he was on that job longer than those people. All these
Exactly.
people that he was in there and, you know, had
And he
the,
was qualified.
right? Exactly. Had actual experience and qualifications from other places. Like, wow.
Okay.
Stunning. 2014. So Wally continued to work on the port file, and moving into 2014, he began to get assistance from the oddest places. And here I'm going to rely less on what was said in court and more on the research I've been doing myself these past 3 years.
Good.
Okay.
For instance, the question of port governance. Guys, we've got to get into this at some point, but keep that on a note there, Janet, would you, in case we ever do need. Port governance had come to the fore. There was to be a new organization formed to
Here
take
comes.
over the port. All
Here comes.
aspects. including the Greenfield site and the cruise pavilion and the marine terminal. It would replace the Sydney Ports Corporation, SPC, which had been overseeing the marine terminal and not paying its rent to the CBRM, as Wally noted in his testimony. Wally said Jim Gogan of Breton Law Group, the same firm as Mosvik, was engaged to draft the Articles of Association of the new organization, although he didn't say who engaged him. So I am still in the dark as to how Gogan became so deeply embedded in the port development.
Who engaged him? Okay, keep going. Yeah.
Seconding Usher. And Gogan was getting help himself when he presented the newly drafted Articles of Association to Council on February 17th, 2015. He presented them along with Marlene Usher, and their presentation began with the phrase, "Our involvement with the establishment of a new corporate entity mandated with the broad economic development of the Sydney Harbour and surrounding municipally owned lands dates back to mid-year 2014. Usher was probably at loose ends around mid-year 2014. Another thing that happened that year was that ECBC, which was leading in the wake of former CEO John Lynn's firing,
she
imploded on June 19th.
Imploded.
Yeah, so she led the former ECBC. She was leading it in the wake of former CEO, him being fired. So, I mean, right up there with her being up there with John Lynn, everything John Lynn did. If you think for a second that Usher didn't know every single decision that was made, you're stupid. I'm sorry to say,
Yes.
way too stupid.
You're dim. Janet's calling you dim.
Yeah, because everything that goes on in an executive, they all know about it before the decisions are ever made. They have meetings to talk about it, whether they're documented or not. They still discuss these things. And to think, know what was going on? Oh.
So this lady, ECBC was going down the shitter, right?
Yep.
So she was going to need a job. So what did they do? They created one for her.
Right in there.
Yeah.
Later in.
And not just any job. One of the most important jobs on the goddamn island. One of the most highest paying jobs on the goddamn island. Probably in Nova Scotia.
And guess what? Does she have any experience with ports or with shipping or with anything like that? Marlene Usher has no experience.
Accountant. Is she an accountant? Chartered accountant?
I don't know. I didn't really.
I believe Marie Walsh is, I believe.
Marie Walsh is.
Something we have to look up.
She's an accountant. Marlene Usher, I don't know. But there's no experience in ports, no experience in shipping.
He had an administrative background, is what I remember, of some sort. But anyways, I'm going to look that up later, guys.
Okay,
luckily, she and Gogan hit on a fun thing for her to do instead of simply working for ACOA. They decided the CBRM would second her to serve as CEO of a port entity that didn't actually exist yet and pay half of her $200,000 salary, which they also set before the board, which was supposed to hire the CEO and set her salary, had even been appointed.
Yeah, it's a setup.
Yes.
This is nuts. Interim ad infinitum. Oh, and about the board. Although the Articles of Association set out very strict rules stating no elected officials could be on it, Gogan cleverly inserted a notwithstanding clause allowing for the creation of an interim board made up of the mayor and 4 councillors and chaired by the CAO of the municipality. Better still, he placed no limit on the period of time that interim board could sit.
Yeah.
Hold it. Okay, Marlene Usher, born and raised in Sydney, Cape Breton. Marlene Usher began working for the accounting firm of KPMG while taking her chartered accountant degree, which she completed in 1992. She worked as senior manager at KPMG for approximately 12 years, where she obtained a wealth of experience in private and public sector business and consulting services. In March of 2007, she was appointed by the Federal Minister of Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency, ACOA. I told you the federal government had fucking ties in this, pardon my French. But I said it's and I nailed it. Okay? So she's been in the cohorts with the federal buddies, okay? So these federal, provincial, and municipal buddies are all entangled in a dirty little web to screw us
and
over.
what was Clark doing? He was going for conservative
MP
leadership, right?
And guess who was who was in power at that time with it was the conservative government.
Yeah. Okay.
Interesting. All of the webs are weaved into this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so keep going. We've established that it's
Yeah.
exactly as I thought.
We've established that Janet is just as smart as we always knew she was, and it is the truth. Wally testified that Gogan asked for his input on the structure of the new port entity, and Wally, who had strong ideas
Where
about
did
it,
Jim
supplied it.
Gogan come from? Like, why does he have involvement in the appointing of a CEO of a board, etc.? Like, he's not a municipal councillor. He's not a mayor.
So Gogan is who again, guys?
From the Breton Law Group, and I've never seen anything that I would consider integrity, reputable. I wouldn't hire the Breton Law Group for anything legit. If you've
So
got
he's
some
from the same.
shit going on, go to the Breton Law Group. They'll
So
help
he's
you.
with the same law group as Mosvik, who is the CBRM's lawyer.
Yes, but also
Right?
this Breton
They're
Law
all-
Group is also involved in the Benyon Development Group. Were they not, Rod?
Okay, watch what you say about Breton Law Group and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying anything that's not true.
Okay, right. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so he felt the port needed to be accountable to the CBRM in a way that old SPC had not been. And he told the court he didn't feel the structure of the interim board hit on by Gogan and Usher accomplished this, noting that it created a subset of councillors who ran the port in closed-door meetings.
There you go.
The closed-door meetings got me, and there's a lot of them
Yeah.
you see.
Oh,
There was
fun.
funny.
Former CAO Michael Merritt in his testimony stressed the openness and accountability of this interim port board, pointing out that it published its minutes and opened its annual general meeting to the public. But this is patent nonsense. The port board published redacted versions of its minutes once a year without alerting anyone that it had done so. And there is a link you can tap on there and you can see a whole slew of information on that.
Yeah.
And after holding the first AGM in a large auditorium on a Saturday, albeit without any audited financials or CBRM councillors or the public to view, it scheduled the next one for a weekday morning in a meeting room so small it was almost entirely filled by the board and the CBRM council.
Brutal.
In other words, nobody's really welcome there.
No.
So port marketers / developers.
Oh, this guy.
Marketers.
Okay,
so this guy's Albert Barbucci via Novaport website is where this picture came from, she says. Okay, what else was happening in 2014? I'll tell you what else. A mysterious duo named Barry Sheehy and Albert Barbucci had appeared on the scene. Sheehy, a consultant and self-published historian who lives part of the year in Gaborone, apparently met Mayor Clark at a social event, and they hit it off like gangbusters. The next thing you know, Sheehy and his longtime associate Albert Barbucci, the fun times they've had together, are marketing our port.
No experience, no delving into ports, marketing, shipping, nothing.
Now, are these the two that we sent on a worldwide?
Yes.
Paid for
yes, they are.
We paid them both $2,500 a day, every day for over a year. We paid them $2,500.
Yeah, that's actually, you guys, that's true. Like, it was, how much was it again, Janet, per day for each of these
$500 every single day, including
we were looking this up a month ago, and it was crazy.
7 days a week for over a year. So $5,000 between the pair for over a year.
Yeah.
Here
we go.
And they're still hanging around.
They are. They're still here. We were just dealing with them last week. Anyway.
Yeah.
Yes, the Cape Breton Port. That was actually the in-camera meeting session was with Barbucci, guys. I'm sorry, but it just happened a few days. What was it, at the beginning of the week? You guys know about that in-camera meeting?
Tuesday
that
or
bothered
Wednesday.
me. I'm like, come on. I'm trying to root for you. Council and mayor, I'm trying to root for you, but these little things. See, it was allowed to be part in camera, but the other part wasn't supposed to be in camera. So you cannot connect the two. And I'm nobody who belongs even on that mayor board or a council or anywhere. But I know that just from reading a few paragraphs.
Yeah.
You can't have these two pieces of business together in the same time frame where nobody's there to listen. If part of it is supposed to be heard by us, that has to be a separate meeting than your in-camera meeting that's supposedly a contract.
Yeah.
This was a contractual meeting, apparently. MGA approved, apparently. Only partially, if you listen, I believe it was Tom Ayers. I believe was his article I was reading this. I was like, oh, come on. Every time I give you guys like a kudos, you go and you just, come on. Anyway.
All right, go
We
for it.
are here we are. The Cape Breton Post will inform us in July 2015 that Barbucci and Sheehy have already been working with the CBRM for 16 months, investing 1.2 million on their own capital into the port development.
Which is bullshit. It is absolute bullshit, trumped up numbers.
Oh, maybe they donated their paycheck, Rod. The one that we gave them. How many
Here's
credits did we give them?
Here's another bureaucratic word. Okay, it's bureaucratic word day. It's called in-kind contributions, right? That is, let's say if I put in like, okay, I build a fence for my community, whatever, right? But I want to get leverage to do something else. I'll say that, well, my time and my energy and my labor costs $25 an hour. I put in 2 hours of work, so that's $50. They're doing the same thing. Is that if they type on their keyboard for a little while, maybe their time is worth $100 an hour. You get what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, cool. All right, do your thing. Right.
So basically, it's saying that means Barbucci and Sheehy began their work for CBRM in March 2014. Their work.
Yes.
So rejection.
Unbeknownst to anybody.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also in 2014, port consultant Neil McNeil submitted his port progress report to Business Cape Breton. You know what that is, BCB. Right?
ECBC, yeah. BCB, yeah.
Which was then operating as the Cape Breton Small Business Development Corporation. It's a long story, she says, and which had also inserted itself into the port development process.
That's Eileen Landon Oldford, who had given the job to Cecil Clark.
Oh, right.
Okay. It's all coming together. McNeil turned in his final report in June 2014, but he had committed the unforgivable sin of throwing cold water on the container terminal project. And so Mayor Clark sat on it for a few months.
7.
For 7 months. Thank you, Janet. That's true. McNeil apparently got so frustrated, he went to the press with his thoughts on the container terminal project in October 2014. And still, Clark withheld the report. When it was finally released, this report, for which the public had paid $100,000 in March of 2015 and discussed in an in-camera meeting, Clark simply denied the report had been withheld, reported Tom Ayers. Much of the contents of the McNeil Management Consultants report had been shared with councillors over the course of several in-camera meetings since last July, Clark said Thursday. The rest of it wasn't released publicly or to councillors because it was irrelevant or conjecture and was not helpful in the municipality's effort to develop the port, he said.
Oh, well, I mean, we thank God we had Clark to censor our info.
Oh, I love that guy.
Lord, what?
He might have actually had transparency.
It's so sad. More or less is the next one, right? Wally testified that Mike Moore was also hired, I believe, through BCB in 2013. Researching for Moore's tracks through the port development process is not for the faint of heart, but I put on my best Elmer Fudd hat and picked up his trail. I first found him being paid $54,748 by the CBRM between April and November of 2014 for consulting services on port development. See the port development update, page 17, presented to the council at the infamous December 19th, 2014 meeting, during which the sale of Archibald Wharf was approved.
Woo!
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff there. Yeah, so there's that. If you go on to that, click on that little link, you can see all that. So he then turned up in the minutes from the 23rd of June 2015 meeting of the Port of Sydney Development Corporation, PSDC, board being seconded to the PSDC from June to September 2015 to oversee business development.
Okay.
This means he would have been directly involved in port development at the time of the McKeel deal. So this is what we're getting down to here.
Yeah.
So it's perhaps no surprise that he turns up as regional manager of commercial interest for Heddle Marine Services East Division in Sydney, which is leasing part of the McKeel docks in Sydport, and of which McKeel CEO Blair McKeel is a director. Now that's what I call economic development, says Mary. So
yeah, you're exactly right, Ken.
Here's the in-camera meeting part. Like, this gets me. All of this was going down during something I once dubbed the CBRM Council's first annual Festival of Secrecy, because between January 2014 and October 2015, Mayor Clark presided over 31 in-camera council meetings, and as Tom Ayers reported at the time, many of these were not even announced to the public, in contravention of the Municipal Government Act.
Breaking the
And
law.
look at these suckers.
Breaking the law.
We should have just called it Cecil's World. Cecil's
We
World.
are looking at like at least one a month, sometimes several in each month.
Yeah.
This is really ridiculous. So what a year, she says. I'm going to adjourn for now. We'll pick up on Wally's testimony in part 4 next week.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a whole mouthful. In all honesty, it's pointing direction in so many different areas. Again, creating the illusion they're economically developing Cape Breton while they're
It's all an illusion.
economically siphoning Cape Breton. They're just sticking them straws in and just drawing every cent they can. I'm sick of it.
There's no economic development.
No, it's economic BS.
No, especially you saw that with this Mike Moore thing. Is that this guy was appointed by BCBC to be an economic development officer. He approved like the ship breaking by McKeel Marine over on the other side of the harbor. So what happens to him for getting this deal through? He becomes part of that company.
Yeah.
You see what happens? And this has been going on. I'm going to say it. This is the way that business is done here in Cape Breton. And other people that I talk to are absolutely shocked at it. There is no, let's say if you go to school, John Wally actually is a perfect example of it. John Wally went to school to become an economic development officer. He worked as an economic development officer in Halifax for the federal government. He comes to Cape Breton. He's trying to do a job as economic development officer. He's got the job. He's doing it, but his agenda and his
he's not allowed.
Yeah.
Can we talk about the port governance part here, guys? Because I was saying there is a link to that, and I just quickly wanted to look at that.
Okay.
Because it's the article she did on March 20th, 2016 is called Port Governance or the Lack Thereof. And so she's letting us know that at this February 17th, 2015 meeting of the CBRM Regional Council, Marlene Usher, in her new capacity as a CEO of the Port of Sydney Development Corporation, and Jim Gogan of the Breton Law Group presented a port governance report, which included the articles of association for the organization Usher had already been chosen to head. Yeah. So this is just the craziest thing. This is just the beginning of this little article here she did, and it's just letting you know that there was no governance over this. This was a bunch of people that literally just said, it's like they joined a little clubhouse. They literally put together their own little group of people that we're allowed in this room and nobody else is allowed in here.
Yes.
It's like high school
Here's
all over.
Here's my big question. Jim Gogan wasn't elected. He's not a part of CBRM government, but yet, by all accounts, he's the one that's setting up this port board.
Yeah.
Why? Whose back was he scratching?
No, where does his authority come from, Janet? Really, where did it come from for him to actually be the one that's in charge of all this?
Obviously, it had to have been from Cecil, the guy who was able to make and do whatever he felt like, because, he did whatever he felt like. He did anything he chose, and everybody just listened to him because they didn't want to make the waters rough and rock the boat.
Exactly. About that boat rocking again, right? Everybody's afraid to rock the boat, which is why secrecy is kept the way it is. Nobody wants to rock the boat, and then nothing is allowed out, and all the secrets are kept and festering and made worse all the time because nobody.
My thing is, I think, look, with all due respect, I think you're giving Cecil too much credit. I think Cecil was a puppet of the other people that were pulling the strings.
Okay, so So if Marie Walsh does the hiring, so then wouldn't she have had to hire that Gogan?
Well, it's what came first, the chicken or the egg here?
I think Gogan came first, actually, Jen. I think it was.
Yeah,
I think it was actually Gogan first.
But
Okay,
where
But he and her, as we can see through that second article. But nonetheless, I'm looking at. I wanted to see all of these titles that our former
Well,
Mayor Cecil held.
let me
he
read
literally-
this other paragraph on Marlene. In March of 2007, Marlene was appointed by the Federal Minister of Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agency as the acting chief executive officer, CEO of a federal crown corporation, ECBC, which was charged with economic development, where she worked until 2014. February 2015, Marlene was offered the position of chief executive officer of a newly incorporated Port of Sydney Development Corporation. Marlene oversees the day-to-day operations of the port, which include cruise traffic, industrial traffic, real estate, and business development. Wow. And I think that's where maybe the Breton Law Group comes in. So that's where maybe her and Gauguin come into partners with the buying of assets of CBRM municipality. Marlene has recently been a board member of Cape Breton University of Governors for 5 years and is presently a member of the Verschuin Center for Sustainability and Energy Environment at Cape Breton University. She's been the spokesperson and champion of United Way campaign in her community. Marlene is chair of the board of Cape Breton Regional Hospital Foundation on the executive of Destination Cape Breton. It seems to me every board she sits on is failing, including, especially the hospital. Dear God, deemed the death hospital of all of Canada. Thanks for that. Coming out of ECBC, one of the most
I
corrupt.
didn't realize that she was on that board as well. That's not voting good for anyone.
Everything she touches just dies, or it just pads her bank account just to it just pisses me off. Treats the local people like they're garbage. Ask anybody who's been around her at the YMCA working out in a spin class or doing anything inside of the locker rooms. Yeah.
No, really?
Yeah. Very.
But getting back to Gauguin, I'm sorry for harping on this point, and I'll probably get in trouble for it. But I don't care.
Full transparency.
Yeah. Where did he get his power to be involved in the setting up of this publicly funded board?
That's a great question. I'd love to have an answer to it.
Yeah.
Well,
and that's the crux of it. Like this guy, he wasn't elected. He's not appointed by CBRM.
no, he's literally a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Like, and he's probably a great lawyer.
So a
And
question.
lawyers become judges at some point, is what I also wanted to make a point of saying, everything.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the biggest part of a lot of things that bother me lately. And it's not just with NSEF or with this little debacle in our CBRM, but with many things like sexual abuse cases and such. The fact that we just had to have that passed, that judges have to take a course to understand what the nature of sexual abuse actually is, because do you understand how many judges don't seem to be able to wrap their mind around what rape actually is, or sexual assault is, or
Well, maybe the judges need to go through a little on the job training. Maybe
they are now. They just are now making it
a little bit. Give them a little hands-on experience of it. Maybe then they'll have a little more understanding. You got to be kidding me.
Well, that's why I'm such a big supporter of Amanda and more female representation in government and in law, and in all of society. Because unless we have equality in the administration of justice, is it going to be fair?
No, it's going to be biased. Finding it completely fair. Good luck to us. Good luck.
Yeah.
But you know what? Us doing what we're doing is at least going to bring it out to the public's eye and let them see how absolutely disgustingly corrupt things really are when you take the time to look.
Yeah, it's not like these things were put together because this is the course of action that's taken when things are done fairly or justly or correctly. These things are done when the powers that be are continuously abusing their powers and sucking more and more from all around them. Like, we don't even know half the money that these people were granted by our federal government. So,
anyone who thinks that we're headhunting for a particular group, we're not. We're advocating for poverty and for issues that have been ignored in Cape Breton for decades. And we're irritated and pissed off over it. And that's why we do this show, because we need to vent. And this is our way to vent and let you all guys know why we're so angry and why Cape Breton is in the economic state that it's in, because we've got economic morons running the show. Sorry to be so blunt, but if we remove them from this equation, I'm sure that the parabolic anomaly would pick up, and we would actually see a trend of things working better for Cape Bretoners instead of everything, worse.
Only benefiting the few, right?
Yeah.
Like what we're looking at is I don't like using the term elites, but if it fits where
even though they're not that elite here, I mean, elite to people is like the 1%. We're talking people that live so far above the average median of everyday people who you go shopping at the grocery store with.
Exactly.
That it's like, okay, we are not even on the same level of thought. It's not like, oh, am I taking my kids to McDonald's or here? It's beyond. It's like I can't even.
You have a few people enriching themselves, and the rest of us having to scramble for crumbs off the bottom of the plate.
It's very frustrating, but I mean, it can only get better with public knowledge, and let's start trying to elect the proper people in there. We don't know who they might be at this point, but
we're at our time limit. I want to thank you all for viewing, guys. We can't appreciate you guys enough. Without you, there is no Serious Sunday show. So please like and share this video, because again, without you guys sharing the video and helping us get the word out, we can't make this show be seen by as many people as we need. So we're on YouTube and on Facebook. Love the new hoodie there so far, guys.
Yeah. Nice hoodie on you, fella. There you go.
Happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to all. We're out there fighting for you guys, trying to inform you mothers out there.
You mothers. And you mothers.
That's right. So guys, have a great day. Enjoy your time with your mom, either it's on the phone or FaceTime, but make sure you get your family time in. Thank you so much for tuning in again today. Cape Breton Originals out. Peace, guys.
Peace.